There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Gould. I'm the Director of Marketing at BetterCloud. This is Eli Winterbaum, our Director of Customer Enablement. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the company and the market that we're operating in and kind of the problem that we're going after, and then Eli's going to give you a demo of our flagship product, FlashPanel. So BetterCloud. We provide security and management software for cloud-enabled organizations. We're serving more than 22,000 organizations around the world. And by cloud-enabled, we mean primarily organizations that are using Google Apps as their email communication platform. Our team, we have more than 50 employees and we're growing quickly. Our engineering office is based in Atlanta. Everyone else is in New York, sales, marketing, support, and the executive team. And we've been funded by some New York area VCs, including Flybridge, Greycroft, and TriBeCa Venture Partners, to date over $13 million. So a little bit of background on the market. Everyone knows that Google makes a lot of money through search. They're actually starting to make more money through their enterprise products. And while it's still a small portion of their overall revenue, it's becoming a more meaningful amount. This is a graph that visualizes a prediction that Gartner made in a report last fall that shows you the growth of Google Apps over the next roughly 10 years. So while Google Apps is serving over 5 million businesses today, Gartner sees them serving over 70 million by 2020. So this is the market that we're going after. Some of the trends in this market, as our friend from Nimbus Space said earlier, over 5 million businesses are on Google Apps today. Within the cloud email market, which is just a subset of the enterprise email market, obviously, Google Apps owns nearly 50% of that. So as that market grows, Google's market share of the overall enterprise email market is going to grow with it. More than 5,000 businesses sign up for Google Apps every day. And Google has a very robust channel program with over 6,000 resellers working to sell Google Apps. So the problem that we're attacking. We believe that IT administrators in cloud-enabled organizations need the consolidated management security controls that they had in legacy systems. So when you would run everything from an on-premise server, you'd have companies like BMC, HP, and other large enterprise software providers that would give the IT team a consolidated overview of everything that's happening in your environment and the ability to restrict, control, and manage users, distribution lists, company files, pretty much everything owned or operated by the company. But in the cloud environment, no software has really emerged to give the IT organization parity. We believe the solution is our product, FlashPanel. There's 4 major areas of FlashPanel, and Eli's going to go into much more detail here, but it's primarily administration, security, insights, and automation. Administration is pretty obvious. Security really revolves around creating file sharing policies for Google Drive, primarily. We give you the ability to black or whitelist other organizations that you might be collaborating with. Insights revolves primarily around the reporting engine that we provide. And automation basically just lets you take those everyday tasks that might take up 30 minutes or an hour of your time, and you can run those on an automated schedule. So this is a little bit of a visualization of where we're headed here. For the past 2 years, we've been serving the bottom part of this graph, the Google Apps segment of the graph. And we want to extend into other verticals within IT, basically. So CRM and ticketing are going to be the first 2 that we're going to tackle. So if you can imagine, when you go to provision a new user, a new employee starting on Monday, they're a salesperson, they need a Salesforce license, and you need to transfer a bunch of leads over from someone who's leaving the organization. When you create their Google account, you can create their Salesforce account as well, assign permissions, transfer all of those leads, all of the history, all from one place. Likewise, if it's someone in your support team, they're going to need access to Zendesk or whatever your ticketing system may be. and they'll need to have the correct permissions as well. So we're basically taking a concept that's existed for a long time, but we're just reimagining it in the cloud. All right, so I'll hand it over to Eli for the demo.
Thanks, Taylor. Give me a minute here to switch windows. Alrighty. So Taylor showed you, the space we're working in and also where we're going. I'm going to show you where the product is today. And actually, today is a pretty important day in our company's history. Actually, we had the majority of our 22,000 customers. Their trial elapsed after 30 days, and now is our real conversion and selling point. So we're kind of moving into a new chapter in terms of the company. It's been about 2 years in the making, so it's been a pretty important day for us. So I'm going to talk to you exactly about what FlashPanel does, and in fact, to kind of frame this, maybe from a show of hands, who has ever logged in to a Google Apps control panel, or who manages a Google Apps account? So quite a few. And then maybe for the other people, if you're not exactly the system administrator, perhaps you've logged into Gmail or Google Drive or Google Calendar, not for your personal account, but for work. And so those are the people using Google Apps. In fact, most people don't realize they're using Google Apps unless I just told you. So with that, there is an out-of-the-box tool provided by Google. And so the people who raise their hand first can attest that it has a little bit of problems. It's not updated as often. So like Taylor mentioned, we saw a really big opportunity to come into this market and actually lead Google and actually let Google see what we're doing, how we're interacting with customers. And they're actually kind of following our lead. So we talked about the 4 different sections of the application. I'll do my best to frame that around there. But in fact, here in the home page, it's just a nice dashboard to let you know what's happening with your account. How many users do you have? Who's using up space? Are you reaching a quota limit for some of your drive storage? This is the information and what a system administrator cares about on a daily basis. Another huge factor is managing your what is called the directory. Your users, your groups, often referred to as distribution lists. Your organizational units, which is a way to frame what type of services a user has and permission to access. And then shared contacts, something that is actually pretty important to the smaller organizations. So just a couple of examples of how we've improved upon what was available with the Google control panel. I know you didn't see what it looked like before, but this is just a very consolidated way to see exactly what's happening for a single user. The ability to add them to groups, remove, edit their contact information, see the last time they've accessed their mail to see if they actually are on vacation or they claim to be working from home. Also simple things like resetting a password. But all of this is actually possible with Google's own control panel, but where we've taken it the next step is you can actually export your entire user list. We actually have some organizations we're working with 20,000, 50,000, even some universities with 200,000 users. They can actually export that to a Google spreadsheet for the larger organizations to a CSV. And you can actually get all this information in one place. And for the people who raise their hand the first time, this might be an aha moment. For the rest of you, it might be a little hard to imagine. But this one feature has been very, it has altered the kind of space and what people can do in a short amount of time. So you have access to edit different information in bulk, whether it be their organizational unit, also their rich profile data, let's say their department, their manager, their title, things like that. So that's an example of how you can manage things in bulk. Another example is the ability to actually export all of your groups, and across the top you can see the different settings applied to each of the groups. So you can also manage these in bulk. So I'll come back into FlashPanel here, as most of the time you will be in the actual application. And in the Google Apps section, we give you the ability to manage Google Drive, Google Sites, Google Calendar, and we are expanding. We have a release next week or next month for Google Plus to manage who's sharing their posts publicly and also what is the content of those posts. So if you are a Google Apps customer and you are using Google Plus, you may not want to turn it on until you have the kind of controls around it. And the general trend is that Google has released something, they let the early adopters adopt it, And then usually the laggards are the larger organizations, the Fortune 500 companies who can't take that risk of how people are interacting with a new social media platform. In addition, we'll also be releasing another feature with what we're calling the Apps Explorer. This is basically if you've ever installed a Chrome extension. I would venture to say maybe half of us have installed Angry Birds. That's always the example that comes up. Who knows what Angry Birds knows about you and your company? They may know your username. They may know your email. They may be tracking and know your browsing history. If you take a 20,000 user organization, you throw in 50 different applications per user. That's a lot of different companies and a lot of different information leaving your company. So that's something that's pretty important. So I don't think we're going to have time to get into any of the specifics around Drive, but I'll say that you can actually manage what is being shared outside of the domain, and you can actually put on policy levels on a per user, per organization level, and actually bring that back into compliance. I think the last thing I'll show you is just reporting, the fact that you can actually build a report. It's much like Salesforce, the way you can drag and drop different pieces of information. And we have, like Taylor mentioned, built our application fully on the cloud platform using Google App Engine and actually cloud compute. So we're using all of Google Apps APIs to provide the information directly to you, where it may be difficult as an organization to build it yourself if the control panel and Google's own applications are not cutting it for you. So I think we've got about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions. So if anyone has any questions or wants to know something specific about the application, our company, how we got here, I'd love to hear it. Over here.
So how customizable is the interface for a specific enterprise brand? The logo and color scheme and that kind of thing?
So actually, it's if you were to use something like Box, it would be great for every single user would be using that product in the company. For us, we're normally selling to the IT team, which is anywhere from one person to a team of 20 or 30. So we haven't really prioritized the customization or white labeling per organization because it's really behind the scenes. If you're ever the normal everyday consumer is just logging into Gmail, Calendar, Drive. They don't know what's happening on the back end. So we haven't gone there, but it's something that we actually are probably going to do in terms of we're creating an end user view to empower all the end users to get at some information. That's something that we'd like to work with. Good question. In the back?
So you said you're looking into different Google apps. What about Google Fusion Tables?
Taylor? Any?
I just feel like that would be like a really helpful thing for data organization.
So is Fusion Tables part of Google Drive now?
I don't think it's one of the core applications for Google Apps customers. So as a Google Apps customer, you can access Fusion Tables, but it doesn't. They don't publish the same kind of APIs that they do for Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Google Plus. So we're probably not able to manage that data like we do in the other stuff.
Oh, over here?
Yes, I see a lot of cool features. Which one was the most requested one? Which one really got you started and got you known?
Email signatures? What do you think? Or
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the type of company. We have a lot of small companies using it, and then a few big companies. But those two constituencies want totally different things. So the small companies really care a lot about standardizing their email signatures, and they want to use the Google directory as like their CRM. So they want to upload 50,000 contacts to the global address list. And so that kind of stuff is really important to smaller organizations, whereas the Drive sharing policies and the Google Plus feature that we're going to be releasing in the next couple months, those have been really important for enterprise customers. And it's more about seeing how their users are kind of leveraging the tools that Google is giving them, because it's hard for them to really see, across thousands of users what's going on.
Other question?
Most large companies have their own monitor control systems. How do you integrate with them, or are you expecting this to pretty much stand alone on its own in terms of the security policy?
So I think the question over here was if large organizations have built their own product very similar to ours, how do we compete? Was that the question?
Or integrate?
Integrate. So we have this kind of build versus buy question. I think that some people are using just the out-of-the-box control panel. Others have built one-off applications or in fact, something without a user interface at all. It's just command line. So we are currently just interacting only with the Google Apps APIs. But in fact, the APIs change so frequently, it's very hard for a large organization to keep up with themselves, even if they've built it to begin with. So it's very hard to stay up to date. And also, it's a huge cost up front, both in time and money to build it.
And one thing we're going to be doing is publishing an API by Q1 of next year, so that any large customer could take information out of our system.
Are you in that compliant?
Sorry?
In that compliant?
Yeah, we will be.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah.
Want to have a really good one? Not that the others weren't. Okay.
Just a little bit more about how you're differentiated from what Google already provide. I mean, if you were to highlight 3 features that you can really differentiate yourselves and that an enterprise would actually deploy this as opposed to go with what Google already has.
I think the key thing that differentiates us from Google is that we're building for the enterprise customer, whereas Google is building for kind of the lowest common denominator. So things like Google Plus compliance policies and drive sharing policies, it's just not as important to the smaller companies that are using Google Apps. And I think Google thinks that's where they're really going to win over Microsoft, is in that kind of micro SMB, maybe like 0 to 100 users market. And so they're making all of the APIs available so that people like us can serve the enterprise customers with third-party tools. I think that's kind of our general perspective on that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.